Hi, I'm Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation. I'm also the podcast host of Invest in Her and an award-winning producer, author, and TEDx speaker. Our show, Invest in Her, features phenomenal female founders and funders. As you know, women receive less than 2% of venture capital funding. Our series is about accelerating the funding of women by connecting them to funding resources. Let's meet today's guest. Hello, welcome to this week's edition of Invest in Her. I'm your host, Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation. And as you know, we always have on amazing women, and today is a very special day, at least to me. It's part of a personal story, and I'm going to welcome on the author of the new book called Bernie's Mitten Maker. And she is in Burlington, Vermont, where my niece lives. I'd like to welcome to the show, Jen Ellis. Hi, Jen. How are you?
Hi, Catherine. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. And I called this episode The Accidental Entrepreneur. And this story is so incredible. I'm so happy to have you on today. You have no idea, because it is personal to me. And I'm going to set up why that is, because obviously you know. But just to share with the audience, it sounds like a sad story, but it's not in the long run. And that is when my sister passed away in 2018. Of course, we were devastated. And my niece had this friend, Jen, who was a mitten maker, among other things. And she put together this beautiful, beautiful blanket of my sister's cashmere sweaters for me, for my sister's husband, and for her 4 kids, Mindy, Shane, Zach, and Chad. And it was like the best present I ever received. I was like, oh my God, this is so special. I have no words, right? And then this funny story unfolded about the blanket that I know my sister's up there laughing about this and cheering you on, Jen. So here's the story. When the inauguration came around, Jen, I know you write in your book, you were super, super excited about this inauguration, right? Yeah. And so, as was I, we had the first, female vice president, Biden had won. We were very excited about this for many reasons. And you didn't know that these mittens that you had given to Bernie through was it his daughter-in-law?
Yep.
Yeah. That he was going to wear them at the inauguration. So let's set up that day. You go into school, you're a teacher, right? You're, excited to see the inauguration that day. You and your wife and your daughter are, plopped in front of the TV and let's kind of set it up from there, because you had no idea he's going to wear those mittens that day, right?
I had no idea. And I was so surprised I wasn't surprised that he wore them because it was cold and I knew he liked the mittens. And so it makes sense, right? And,
and I just want to interject right here that you Vermonters say mittens with no T's. you and my niece call them mittens. There's no T's in it. I just want to point that out because it's hilarious.
Okay. Now I'm always going to think about that. But anyway, I knew that he liked them and wore them. And I was teaching that day in my classroom alone because it was during the pandemic and my students were at home. So I was remote teaching, and I just got a barrage of texts letting me know that Bernie had worn the mittens to the inauguration. So it was a half day of school. I raced home because we were so excited to see Kamala Harris be the first first female vice president. And we were sitting there with our daughter, and there was Bernie, just sitting there by himself, looking kind of grumpy. And I thought, it's so strange that the camera keeps resting on him, but meanwhile, it was blowing up online, and we're not like hugely online people. We're not even huge TV people. Like, we dragged that TV out of the closet for the occasion. So yeah, it just went from there. Yeah. And, hundreds, thousands of people were trying to reach me for the rest of that day and the next few days. But I was busy. My report cards were due. I have a kid, a dog, a wife. I have a life, and I couldn't just surrender to this whole thing. But it got bigger and bigger and bigger, as you know.
Let me interject there. So I'm watching the inauguration. Everybody's talking about Bernie's mittens, like incessantly. And, in the news for the next few days and in all these memes and everything. And my niece calls me and says, did you see the mittens on Bernie? I'm like, of course I did. Everybody did. Wasn't that hilarious? And then she says, well, I have a story for you. Those mittens were made by my friend Jen, who made our blankets of my mom's sweaters that I gave you for the holidays. And I'm like, what? I go, oh my God, I have to tell everybody. She goes, no, you can't tell anybody because Jen doesn't want to make anymore and she doesn't want anyone to know. And P.S., then my niece says, I feel so terrible. All these people now want her mittens and she doesn't have any mittens because she's been making our blankets. I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible. And I'm always cheering on female entrepreneurs. So I'm like, oh no, what do we do to this girl's business? But in the long run, as we're getting to, this story ends well and continues to go well. So the next step was, of course, you didn't have these mittens, but I think the Vermont Teddy Bear Company reached out to you. Is that what happened?
Yeah, hundreds of businesses reached out to me and I was so overwhelmed. And a friend of mine was just like, do a quick search on your email, because 22,000 people emailed me looking for the mittens.
Oh,
not just
God.
one pair, but like they wanted to fill their store, give them to all their employees, give them to everyone in their families. And there was no way I could make that many mittens.
Oh my God.
And if I made just a few mittens, and sold them for what was a reasonable price, people would just sell them on eBay for thousands of dollars because everybody wanted it all at once.
So wait, you used to sell these mittens at the fairs, right?
Yeah, craft fairs.
It was kind of a side hustle from teaching, right? You were just selling them at the fairs and it was a side.
Yep. This is how we paid for our summer vacations.
Oh my God. And you never in a million years could have imagined this happening, right? I mean, Bernie Sanders, who has millions of fans and followers, right? Which is why I think it blew up. I mean, I think I even saw it on Saturday Night Live. I mean, it was just crazy how crazy people went over these mittens and still do. And I'm so happy you just came out with this book. I want to mention the book because people can pick it up. It's called Bernie's Mitten Maker, right?
Yeah.
And the beauty of your book, first of all, I just want to mention you're a great writer.
Thank you.
Writer. Yeah. And I loved how personal you got in the book. And it was really interesting. Your life has been interesting. The way you shared things so vulnerable to your life was really impressive. People are going to enjoy reading this book. People are going to identify with this book. Rather, it has to do with a lot of kids are, sexually molested or whatever. And so that you address that a lot of people come out as gay people, you address that in a very beautiful way, that kids are going to, they're going to like reading it. Hopefully the book doesn't get banned. not funny, but I mean, I'm just saying how ridiculous that is. Right. Yeah, I mean, Bernie Sanders, he's an icon, and this is such an amazing story. So let's talk about where it went from there. So now you couldn't sell them at the fairs. You couldn't possibly make enough for all these thousands of people that wanted them. So what was the next step?
So I partnered with the Vermont Teddy Bear Factory. They created 10 new jobs. And when I talk about this in the book, when I toured the factory, I asked the tour guide person, were these people who were making teddy bears and now they're just making mittens? And she was like, no, we created 10 new jobs, full-time jobs with benefits, paying really, really good pay. And all of them went to new Americans, and most of them are women. And it just, honestly, I just started to cry because this whole thing was such a nightmare. Like, I didn't want to be famous. I didn't want to be like, I mean, nobody thinks in the morning, today I might become internet famous, right? Like, it's not even part of the landscape of your imagination. And so when it happens,
one, not only were thousands of people reaching out to you, but all the news stations were calling you, running over, asking you for interviews.
mm-hmm.
I mean, it's
showing up at my house, showing up at my school. Yep.
Yeah.
Calling my school secretary, calling my classroom, sending me things through the mail. I mean, it was so much. People were impersonating me online. The state's attorney of Vermont had to prosecute people who were internationally impersonating me, pretending to be me, using my name and likeness to create fake businesses and rip people off. I mean, it just went on and on and on. There were so many layers to it. So I partnered with the Vermont Teddy Bear Factory, and now they have the Vermont Mitten Factory. Everybody can get the mittens. If you go on to vermontteddybear.com, you can get mittens. You can get them for everyone you know, and they're awesome. And they use my pattern. I help them with advertising. I've partnered with them to make the mittens. Meanwhile, in order to get to sleep at night, I was writing all this down because it was so unbelievable to go from just living a life as a school teacher, a mom, a community member, to all of a sudden being this like internet person, like I was going to say icon, but not really, just like an unwilling participant in this weird internet fame.
Yeah.
And then I realized I had the makings for a book. And, and the more I was thinking about it, when everybody's looking at your life and commenting on your life, it does give you like an opportunity to look at your own life. And I started thinking about, what do I want out of my life? And I was feeling kind of done with teaching. So I wrote this book. I resigned from teaching. I decided to go back to school to become a therapist. I'm training to become a therapist. Meanwhile, the book is kind of taking off, and I have an opportunity to write another book. So this next year of my life, I just threw all the cards up in the air, and I was like, I'm going to devote this year to publicizing this book, to showing up, to saying yes to every single invitation, to be on podcasts and to meet new people and to travel to book clubs and to do all of it.
And I will say, everybody that does a year of yes to everything, it's always a magical year. It's always a magical year. You get to do things you probably otherwise wouldn't get to do. And, what I love is you're doing everything with this opportunity for the greater good. Like you said, getting more people jobs. I know you used an all-female small press, and we're going to talk about that. And that a percentage of all this has gone to charities. So you've done so many good things with it. And now you're allowing yourself for the next year to go speak at book clubs or events where people would find it advantageous to have you there with your experience of what you've been through. And so many good things are coming out of it. Wait, can you say what the next book is going to be about by any chance?
Well, it's going to be fiction because let me tell you, it was really hard writing this book. Like you said, I got personal and I told the whole story and I told the whole backstory of like, why was crafting so important to me? It was important to me because I used crafting and creativity to heal from trauma. And I think that people don't realize that I made those mittens for Bernie after we lost a baby, like that's part of the book. And I think that, everybody has their thing that they do to kind of heal. Some people go running, other people knit, I sew. And that's what I've always done. So yeah. And I do want to speak to
I remember in the book, you kind of got the sewing from your mother, right?
A little bit, and from my home economics teacher. She's the one who taught me how to sew. But I want to speak to the nonprofit piece because so I had to hire a lawyer to negotiate this contract with Vermont Teddy Bear Factory because they're a huge business. And I had I'm not really a huge business person. So I hired this business lawyer and we negotiated this contract. And I said, the one thing I want is I want a portion of every sale of every mitten forever to go to charity. And so for the first year, that's in the contract. So for the first year, a portion of all the sales went to to Make-A-Wish Vermont. And the second year, I was like, they picked Make-A-Wish Vermont, which was great. The second year, I was like, I want to pick. And so now a portion of every sale goes to Outright Vermont, which is a queer youth organization supporting queer youth doing groups. It goes specifically to support their summer camp. It's just an awesome organization. So I feel really, really good about that too.
So I think there's a couple ways people can be supportive to you. One is they can buy the book, which is Bernie's Mitten Maker. It's on Amazon and wherever you buy books online for the most part. But also we wanted to talk about supporting the Green Writers Press, which is the women-founded small press that she decided to go with instead of a larger one. And this, they always need help with printing the books, right? That's a big endeavor of, or expense, I should say, is printing the books. And that's something that you wanted to talk about today. The website for Green Writers Press, is that .com?
greenwriterspress.com. And if you contact them and say
they can,
if you want to help pay for the printing of the book. So we had an anonymous donor pay for the first 1,000 books, which sold out within hours of the book coming out. And so we went into a little bit of debt to print 1,500 more. But they're quickly selling out. So, I mean, when you go with one of those big presses like Random House or, or whoever, they have a lot more money and a lot more, sway to print 10,000 copies of a book. But when you go with a small independent press, that money has to come from somebody's pocket. And, I can't afford that. And, so that's really where I'm looking for help now is to help fund the printing of the books so that they're more widely available to everyone.
Right. And we want women to also support the Green Writers Press, which is founded by women, run by women, very small team. So people can go there and make a donation, or of course they can buy the book, buy several books for whatever holidays are coming up. Makes a great gift. People get a kick out of it. They could even give the book, Bernie's Mitten Maker, with a pair of the mittens. I'm seeing it as,
oh my goodness. Yeah, that would be a perfect gift. Make a great wedding gift. I often do like a his and hers mittens for wedding gifts, and you can put the book in there too. And if folks want to support me, this is my year of yes. You know what? Call me up. Find me online and invite me to your book club. Invite me to your local bookstore. Invite me to your college or university, and I'll be there, because the answer this year is yes.
Absolutely. I love that you're going on the road with this, and that you've become an accidental entrepreneur, basically. And, a lot of people do have a full-time job and they're doing a side hustle that then turns into what they do for a living. So I know you're going back to school to become a therapist, but who knows, this might keep calling your name. I have a feeling. I can't wait to hear and see your new book also that you're going to work on this coming year. That sounds super exciting. I don't know, Jen, I think you might be an author. You're a good writer.
It's taken me a little while to grow into that new identity, but I think that I'm there, and I really got a lot out of writing this book, and I can't wait to write another one.
Well, and did we say, are you allowed to share what that one's about?
The next one is about a young therapist's relationship with her old therapist, who is retired.
Oh, wow. A lot of people are going to identify with that one. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, my wife, Deborah, is a writer too. So I know she's going to enjoy following you and reading your books. One quick funny story about the blanket you made for us of my sister's cashmere sweaters, which, by the way, sometimes people will say, why did she have so many cashmere sweaters? And it was someone on the other side of the family that was like a manufacturer of that. So she had I think 200 cashmere sweaters, which is how you were able to make the blanket of her sweaters. And it's so near and dear and precious to me, I'll tell you, that, I mean, I don't let anybody touch it, I don't let anybody sit on it, but it's on the back of a chair. So one day my wife and I are getting pictures from our dog sitter, because she tends to send us pictures. And there was the dog placed on the blanket. And I immediately texted and called him like, no, not on the blanket. So
you know what I'll tell you about your sister? I never met her, but when I was cutting up all of her cashmere sweaters, you could smell her on them. And also there was occasionally a stain kind of on the shelf here. And it's so funny because not funny, but it was poignant because it was like I was able to sort of meet her through time. And there's a chapter in the book where I talk about your sister and Mindy and how crafting is a way for us to take artifacts from the past and bring them into the present in this new way. And often the thing that is most present is how they smell. And so I know what your sister smelled like, and it was beautiful. She was beautiful. I know she was.
Well, thank you. And that is so interesting what you're saying about taking artifacts to remember the people that have passed and, putting them into something so special as that, like the blanket. And so I'm forever grateful to you for doing that. It was the best gift ever. And I can't talk about it anymore. It'll make me cry. But really a wonderful gift. We're going to cherish those forever. I love your story. How can people find you on Instagram, or where are you, Jen, on social?
You can find me on Twitter at vtawesomeness.com. I made that handle before I ever knew I was going to be famous. I'm on Facebook.
vtawesomeness.com. Okay.
No, vtawesomeness, not .com. vtawesomeness is my handle.
Oh, your Twitter. Handle on Instagram?
Right.
Okay.
No, I am on Instagram. I can't remember what my handle is. Like I said, I'm not super internet savvy, but you can also email me at jsellis21@gmail.com. You can find me at berniesmittenmaker.com. You can find me on Facebook. Okay. Yeah. You can find me through Green Writers Press.
Yes, I found you on Facebook.
They can find me through you.
Right, find it through me. And then the awesomeness one was, what was it, Twitter?
Yeah, that was Twitter. VT Awesomeness.
Yeah.
That, that's where I really blew up. But every time I post, I lose about 100 followers. So I think I'm blowing down now.
Who can ever figure out those algorithms, right? But
I know.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I just think it's such a cool, fun story. I'm wishing you all the best with growing your business and selling your books and just stepping into the greatness of, being who you are and what you're doing in the world, and really appreciate you. And I got to tell everybody, you got to get Bernie's Mitten Maker book. It's really a great read, a lot of fun, a great gift. And, check out Jen. I know I looked you up on Facebook. We're friends there now. And it's super fun to be connected to you and your awesomeness and your VT awesomeness on Twitter, right?
VT awesomeness.
All right. Well, thanks so much. What about LinkedIn? Are you on LinkedIn?
I am on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Okay. So you can find Jen Ellis on LinkedIn. Of course, you can find me, Catherine Gray, there. And we are sheangelinvestors.com. So check us out. We're all about helping female entrepreneurs to be empowered through funding and getting resources and connections. So check us out. And of course, on Instagram, we are Catherine Gray, Invest in Her. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Make it a great week. Thank you, Jen, for being a wonderful guest. Have a great day.
Thanks for having me.
Remember, if you're looking to launch a business or grow your business, check out our e-course, 6 Ways to Fund Your Business, available at sheangelinvestors.com.